Our script was Kidnapped. The short story was Ransom of R.C. And I was supposed to talk about the protagonist and how the protagonist changed from story to script. However, I found that they each had a different protagonist, but when I thought about comparing them, the character of John was actually really interesting in how he changed from story to script. With the character of John, obviously in the short story, he's a little kid who gets kidnapped and held for ransom. He's a total shithead. He's like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone. He's messing with his kidnappers and all this stuff. But in the script, it takes a bit of a serious turn, and he's the son of some big CEO. He doesn't do anything. He's a bit of a weasel. Nobody likes him. He doesn't work. He's just a huge dick. So obviously, on that note, what he says and does in each of these is extremely different. Like I said, in the short story, he's funny. He's more of a comic relief kind of character because the short story itself is pretty funny. So the things he does basically serve to make the reader laugh. However, in the script, it's much more serious. We kind of almost feel bad for him. He has a nice arc by the end of the story. I personally did not like this choice. I thought it was, the original short story was a decent comedic piece, but they changed it to the script, and it was kind of a family story. And I didn't think they really kept in spirit with the story, and I didn't think it was quite as good.
So in the script Kidnapped, John is your hero. You have the father is his higher self. John wants to be like his father, but he does nothing to it. And you have Sam and Bill, who are the two kidnappers. Now, they don't really fall into any specific archetype. They are kind of all over the place. At first, of the shadow, they're going to kill him. They're going to try and get money from the father. But then later you find out when Bill slips that the father wanted him kidnapped in the first place. And so almost they become mentors because Bill and Sam show John kindness. Even though they kidnapped him, they felt sorry for him. They loosened up, they took his cuffs off him, they let him walk around, let him get comfortable, and they showed him kindness. So there are four things that each of these characters reflect in the beginning of John and show how he grows. So John in the beginning is mean. You see him get on the elevator, he makes sure that nobody else gets on it, so he gets on himself. Bill is the kindness, and he shows John that kindness goes a long way. So that then he is his kindness. You have everything is given to him. Obviously, his father is extremely wealthy, and he kind of just mooches off of him. And you have Sam, who's this mastermind behind the whole kidnapping, and he does it so that he can get money. And so he kind of shows that he has to work for things, and he shows the opposite side of not having money. So he is grateful for what he has when John isn't. And then obviously his father is this very successful businessman, so he works for what he has, and John feels like he has nothing. He doesn't really work for anything. He almost just kind of glides through life. And altogether, you have it where nobody cares about him when you kind of find out that all three of them together start to care about him.
So I'm going to be talking about the endings of both the script and the short story. So in the short story, the kidnappers pay the father to take this kid back, and because the short story is told from their point of view, the arc is really more about them. Like, so the kid is really more of a static character, and you kind of are following the kidnappers, not the kid. In the script, it's like the emotions about John's character are very different because he is a very dynamic character. So he has gone from this selfish person to this person realizing that he's like hated so much by his own family that his dad would pay people to just take him away, to never like be seen again. So it's a much more interesting and like emotionally like satisfying ending, because you see a change in this character, whereas in the ending of the short story, it's really more like a comical, like ironic ending. Like, this kid is such a brat, like they couldn't handle him, so they had to give him back. So it just has this like completely different effect. Like, one is the script for the short film is just much more serious than the short story.
So, question 4. The scene where Ebenezer asks John to do something for him gives us the perfect example of a dialogue being used to evoke emotion, because through this dialogue we can tell that how John is a high maintenance person and hard to deal with, and how his personality traits affects his relationship with people, not only with his father. We just can assume that that's how he is with everyone. And through his dialogue we can assume that John has trouble relating not only with his parent but with anyone that knows him. And this dialogue also provides us with backstory, because Ebenezer mentions how John does nothing for the company, how that he only shows up twice a year to do something, and even when he does, he doesn't really do it well. And their conversations show lack of affection in their father-son relationship. And this dialogue also moves the story forward, because it shows how their relationship causes the father to want his son to be kidnapped. And the second part of the fourth question, the word choice that the author uses clarifies that John's father doesn't like his son's attitude. He calls him son of a bitch. He also explains how John only does things once every 2 years. This implies that John is lazy and spoiled. However, it also makes the reader skeptical for what's going on with the package. Why would he trust his son with something so important if he's such an unreliable, lazy person that he cannot count on? It seems fishy for sure, and we soon learn that there are ulterior motives for John's father's actions.